Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Sassy Southern Belle. My name is Breezy. We're sitting on my bed. I'm tired, guys. I truly am. But anyway, so I originally was going to start this off with TikToks, but I was like, no, Tell Me Lies Season 3 premiere. Season 3 has premiered. And we have to get into it. We have to get into it. Oh my gosh. But if you're new here, hit that like button or that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe, help a girl out. But, okay. So, let's talk about this for a second. Tell Me Lies. I think you could tell by the look on my face, I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while. Yes, for a while. There we go. I think that kind of balances out a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. Anyway, so we start off with everyone returning from the break. Brie was staying at Lucy's house, and because her being with Oliver kind of messed her up. And then we find out Steven's been staying at Evan's house and everything. The guy's pretty much homeless at this point. He's a narcissist and he's homeless. It checks out basically. But anyway, so they go to this party where they do Molly. Well, they run into Molly, then they get Molly, and it turns out, we'll find out that it's the guy that Bree actually knows. So almost everyone does Molly, but Pippa and Steven. Um, which Pippa ends up leaving after she gets into basically it wasn't really an argument with Diana, but more like which is really Diana trying to talk Pippa into not giving Wrigley the Molly. So Steven acts like he takes it, but he doesn't take it. He sticks it in his pocket. And he knew what he was doing, honestly. I figured out what he was doing. He didn't want to lose that control. He wanted Lucy to confess that when she was on drugs, that she slept with Evan. We'll get to Lucy in a moment. But y'all, just just when I thought Steven could not get any worse this season, he gets worse. Oh my gosh, he gets so much worse. But oh my gosh. Evan finds out that Bree and Oliver, the 45-year-old that Oliver, and you should have seen his face when he found out that he was married. Yes. Oh my gosh. But while we're on that topic of Evan, the fact that he's back with Molly again, but he told Bree, and I'll leave her in a moment if you ask me to. Bree has no interest in him. She's done moved on from that relationship, Evan. She really has. And you're stuck in this delusional land right here. Um, you really are. Then there's Lucy. Lord help us all. Lucy. I'm trying. Lucy. Oh my gosh, Lucy. Why did you do that? At this point, just come clean to Bree. She would have totally been mad, but she would have came around. And at this point, Bree's done moved on. She has. So, Lucy, you make stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision. And you and Steven are so toxic. And it's hard to believe that Grace and Jackson are not like that. And it amazes me that it is nothing like Grace and Jackson in general. Like, you can tell these are truly characters right here. Yeah. And the fact that I found out that, like, she's based them off Stassi and Jax. Wow. Also, can we talk about Wrigley's glow up for a moment? I think Wrigley with that haircut. I don't know, when he had his hair like that in the first two seasons, I didn't like it. But I like the haircut this season. I really do. It makes him more attractive, in my opinion. But, oh my gosh, Wrigley, my heart breaks for you, dude. I know you're going through a lot right now. But the fact that everyone is standing up to Steven, Wrigley has stood up to Steven, Evan stood up to Steven, and how this guy even still have friends is what I want to know. And the fact that Evan decided to put Sadie's tuition, yeah. Oh my gosh. While we're on the topic, let's move on to got punched by Nick Jonas. I don't know, this song does something for me, guys. It really does. I'm not gonna lie. Oh my gosh. Um, there's also, while on the Jonas world, Joe Jonas can't parallel park and he loves to forget choreography. Although at this point, I'm convinced he forgets the choreography on purpose, which I ain't complaining. I really ain't. Look at it from behind, you would understand completely. But the parallel parking, in Joe's defense, parallel parking is hard. Trust me on that one. It really is. Now, let's talk about that. Tonight is the Natty, and we've got to talk about the Miami and Ole Miss game for a second. I knew it. I knew Ole Miss was going to lose to Miami. But Ole Miss, I had to give it to you. That was a hell of a game. Hell of a game. I really do believe that. You guys did an amazing job. And I'm so proud of you this season, especially since Kiffin left. And the fact that now half your coaching staff and players are going to be leaving and joining Kiffin. Kind of messed up if you ask me. But if there's not a documentary out about you guys, I will be shocked. I really will. In Miami, we said this before, Indiana is one of those teams that they feed off your mistakes. Y'all make a lot of mistakes. So every mistake you make, Indiana's going to feed off of it. You've got to remember that. Now, Indiana and Oregon. Oregon, did you even really want to come play at all? Seriously. Um, like, I knew Indiana was going to win, but seriously, Oregon, what? They gave you a nice little butt whipping. If you want me to say that word, I'm not doing that. But I'm so happy for Indiana. I really believe there's gonna be a documentary made about them this year. After this year, truly, well, if there's not, I will be shocked. Honestly. Um. Now, who do I predict's gonna win the national championship? Indiana. It is so weird too because Miami technically has the home field advantage. Technically, Fernando, born in Miami, and Miami didn't want to let him be a walk-in. So, Indiana. But let's talk about, with that being said, let's move on to some things that need to change in 2026 season. Before y'all click off, here's the thing. I love football. I don't give a damn if you don't like it. My bad. Anyway, but I love college football. I love it more than anything in this world. Um, and there's some things that really need to change. The first thing that needs to change is the timeline for recruiting. Look, if you're going to recruit, you need to wait officially till after the football season is over with. After. After that national championship, that timeline needs to get pushed back. It really does. Which I get you have spring training and all of that, but at the same time, you have to remember that these players are still in school, and if they want to transfer, they have to go. Like, they have to. In general. Um, but there needs to be a timeline to the recruiting season. It needs to be after that last bowl game for the whole college football teams. It needs to be. It makes more sense too. Um, because that way coaches can focus on getting their team ready for the playoffs or national championship if their team is in that to begin with. And during that time when you're waiting, you can be looking to see, okay, this is where we need improvement, this is where we need recruitments from. Okay? Because look at Indiana right now. They haven't had much time to look at the transfer portal. They really haven't. Um, and the second thing that needs to change, when you announce you're leaving the team, coach or student, you need to wait until after your season has officially ended. Not before the playoffs if your team makes it. Not after, like officially after. We know why I'm saying this. Lane Kiffin, you can go to hell for all I care. Can you please don't make me hate LSU, Lane Kiffin? I like LSU with a passion. I really do. Another thing, the transfer portal has ruined it. Okay, here's the thing. The transfer portal, I believe you should be allowed one transfer while you're in college. One. Now, it can, like, if you transfer, there has to be a really good reason for you to transfer. I really do. And the fact that each player can just transfer at the end of every year sucks. And it's ruined college football, honestly. Um, Another thing, NIL deals need to have a cap on them. NIL has completely ruined college football, in my opinion. Um, I really believe so. A lot of people go to the teams just because, oh, they're going to pay me. Now, with that being said, I think if the school is fortunate enough to have these players, there should be like a weekly allowance set aside for these players, or a monthly allowance where a player cannot go over that allotted dollar. And I completely get that. I really do. But NIL needs a cap on it. If you're it started off with good intentions, but it turned bad so quickly. And Saban was right to get out when he did. Now, this one I strongly believe in. Media training requirement. If you are at a um, or transferring, or a freshman in general, does not matter. If you are going to a new school, you need to have a required media training seminar. It cannot be waived. You have to have it. And the reason I say this is because there's one player in particular right now who has no media training whatsoever, who comes off as a complete douchebag, which I will get to him in a minute, and you can guess which one I'm talking about. Um, Another thing, there needs to be a commissioner who's unbiased. Not a biased one where you could just easily pay off and everything. So there needs to be a commissioner set making sure everything's so like the NFL has a commissioner, for crying out loud. College football needs a commissioner as well. Um, this next one goes back to Lane Kiffin. So you can kiss my butt, Lane Kiffin. I don't care. Um, Contract restrictions on paying a coach out. So apparently, every time Ole Miss advanced in the playoffs, LSU was paying Kiffin out. I think that's completely messed up. His contract was voided at Ole Miss, and I'm pretty sure Kiffin was really, um, pushing hard because I'm pretty sure LSU was the one school that was willing to do it. And it's not illegal. That's the sad part. But this needs to be a contract restriction right here. That needs to be a violation, in my opinion. Also, if a player enters the transfer portal, they should not be allowed to play in a game. I saw this clearly with Oregon, for sure. And then there was the Florida State issue several years ago, where a lot of players entered the portal, but none of them came to play. And I know there's a lot of things that happen when you enter a transfer portal, but if you literally enter the transfer portal, you should not be allowed to play the remainder of that season, the rest of that game. So I really that also needs to go back to the issue where it needs to get pushed back to the end of the official end of college football season. It does. Um, I'm a strong believer in that. The first two rounds of college football playoffs need to be played on the high-ranking team's home field. I believe that works out perfectly for each team. Um, with that being said, the third round and fourth round will be played on a neutral territory. That way, no team gets the home field advantage. In that well, no team will get the home field advantage on that one. And technically some don't, but there are a few cases where some will get the home field advantage. Miami, for example, will technically have the home field advantage in the Natty. Um, Coaches who help players coaches who help players cheat should be fired immediately. You know what I'm talking about. Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin, and I'm pretty sure there's much more coaches, but I know this for a fact. Um, Also, um, there needs to be full transparency and no bias. I know. Somebody's gonna say, but there is full transparency and no bias. No, there's not. Because I said before, Alabama is not a playoff team. Alabama manages to pay their way into the playoffs every single year. Yeah, they do. I know there's gonna be like, but oh, that's just the Auburn fan. No, it's not. When Alabama's good, I will give it to them. But you will hardly ever hear me admit that. That's just Auburn fan me on that one. I'm gonna be honest with you. The bias comes out. But with that being said, there needs to be full transparency, no bias. Alabama did not deserve to be in the playoffs this year. No, they lost three. And they lost three games. They barely beat Auburn. They barely beat any of the games that they played this year, for crying out loud. And I'm trying to give Alabama some grace. Because if you remember Saban's first few years at Bama, you would get it, right? So I'm trying to give Bama some grace, but that grace period is wearing out. Really and truly. Um Championship games should count against teams. Yes, I'm with Notre Dame should be needing to be in the playoffs, honestly. I really do think so. Alabama, for example, the way they played against Georgia, that was not that counted against them, fully and truly. Also, if a team is not part of a conference, it should not matter. Notre Dame, for crying out loud. Honestly, I believe that. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that one, but you know what? Y'all can go do whatever. Y'all seen the warning at this beginning of this episode. Bye bye. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the 2026 SEC football schedule for a minute. And I'm gonna give my personal predictions. Now, with Alabama, we already know they're gonna lose. I don't want that. Now, let's talk about Arkansas. So their wins are gonna include North Alabama, Utah, Tulsa, and Tulsa. Their losses: Georgia, A&M, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. Auburn, Texas, and LSU. Now, I have their maybes highlighted in blue. That's Vandy, Missouri, and South Carolina. That could go either way, honestly. Auburn, as much as I would love to have Auburn do like a full 2013, 20, like a full Cam Newton season again, realistically, that's not possible. And I really want to give them the highest hope possible. But I'm always going to root for them. But I'm also going to be realistic at the same time, some of them. But, so, the first four games, easy win for Auburn. And that's Baylor, Southern Miss, Florida, and Vandy. Vandy, you just lost all my support. And we'll get to that part in a minute. Tennessee's a maybe. It just depends on the recruitment Tennessee does. Um, Georgia? I don't know. That's going to be a loss, as much as I hate to admit it. A win for LSU, a maybe at Ole Miss. I really do, because I think Ole Miss really does have something to prove. Because they're going to be like, you know what, we can do this. And then their last four games of the season, that's going to be a win for them. Even the Iron Bowl, that's my weekend, baby. But then there's Florida. First two games, obvious win. Their game against Auburn, a loss. Their game against Ole Miss, that's a maybe. Their game against Missouri, loss. Their game against South Carolina. And here's how I say this: Florida's just one of those teams you never know what the hell you're gonna get with them. Never. Then there's their next three games: Texas, Georgia, and Oklahoma, which Georgia technically has the home field advantage, which I think is pretty weird. But anyway, it's gonna be losses. Then they're gonna have a win over Kentucky. Kentucky's a basketball school. Then they're gonna lose to Vandy, and it's a maybe against Florida State because that is a rivalry game for sure. Then I predict the all perfect season for Georgia. Now let's talk about Kentucky. Against Youngstown State, win. Alabama, that is going to be a win. I don't care what anyone says on that one. We will never see me rooting for Alabama, not in this lifetime. I don't get why people want to expect that from me. But then there's A&M. I'm going to say a loss on that one because A&M, they play really good in the regular season, but they choke when the stakes are high. They really do. South Alabama, easy win. South Carolina is just one of those games that could go either way, honestly. Then LSU, Oklahoma, Vandy, and Tennessee, loss. Um, Florida's a maybe. It depends on how Florida wants to come and play, if I'm being honest. Missouri and Louisville. Now, I've been told that Kentucky and Louisville, biggest rivalry whatsoever. Now, let's talk about LSU. LSU's going to have a lot of hate on them this season, and I'm going to hopefully, during this off season, have it where hopefully Lane Kiffin doesn't make me hate LSU so my opinions change. Which I will do a reaction, like I will give my final predictions before football season starts on this as well. But their first two games, Clemson and Louisiana Tech, wins. Ole Miss, that's gonna be a loss. Ole Miss is out for blood, honestly. A&M, maybe. McNeese and Kentucky wins. Mississippi State, maybe. Auburn, that's gonna be a loss. I'm rooting for my Tigers or Eagle. Um, it's gonna be a win against Alabama because even though I don't like Kiffin, I hate Alabama. Um, it's gonna be a loss against Texas and Tennessee and a win against Arkansas, in my opinion. So next we have Ole Miss and Louisville. Technically, on that first game, Louisville has the home field advantage where they play in Nashville. They'll probably play in Titan Stadium, something like that. But they have Charlotte against Charlotte. It's gonna be an easy win. Loss against, well, that's gonna be a win against LSU. I stand by that statement. Win against Florida. A maybe against Vandy, Missouri. A loss against Texas, Auburn, Georgia, and Oklahoma. And a win against Roeford and Mississippi State. Now let's talk about Mississippi State now. The first three games, Louisiana Monroe, Minnesota, and South Carolina, easy wins for Mississippi State. Now, Missouri, that's a maybe win or a maybe loss. That can depend on how it goes. In Alabama, you already know what I'm saying on that one. Win, win, win. LSU, same maybe. It depends. Because this isn't technically a new team for Kiffin, but he's keeping some of his coaching staff. But you saw how many years it took Ole Miss to get to where they are today. Now, their losses, next four games, losses Oklahoma, Texas, Vandy, and Auburn. Then Tennessee Tech, it's going to be a win. And Ole Miss, that's going to be a loss. I stand by that. Even though that is a rivalry game, and I'm going to give Ole Miss a benefit of the doubt here. No, like Kiffin's not there. Let's talk about Missouri. So I'm going to say Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kansas, Troy, and Mississippi State wins. Florida is a maybe. Texas A&M loss. Ole Miss win. Um, Arkansas a maybe as well. Now, Texas and Georgia losses. I am on the Arch Manning hype train. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Kentucky win. Oklahoma loss. Speaking of Oklahoma, let's talk about Oklahoma real quick. UTEP win. Michigan win. New Mexico win. Texas technically has the home field advantage in Dallas. So, it's going to be a loss at Georgia, loss at Texas, win at Kentucky, loss at Mississippi State, win at South Carolina, maybe at Florida, win at Ole Miss, maybe at A&M, and win at Missouri. South Carolina. Unless South Carolina does some major improvements, they have the potential. I'm going to say that. But for South Carolina, Kent State, Townsend, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Kentucky all wins. You'll never see me root for Alabama. You will never. Maybe at Florida. It's going to be a loss at Tennessee, Oklahoma, and A&M. A maybe at Arkansas. A loss at Georgia, and a win at Clemson. Clemson is not what it used to be. Let's talk Tennessee. Furman, Georgia Tech, and Kansas State wins. Maybe at Texas. A loss at Auburn. Win at Arkansas. Win at Alabama. I don't know why, so thank you. win at South Carolina, win at Kentucky, win at A&M, win at LSU, and win at Vandy. Now, we have 3 teams left to discuss for the 2026 SEC schedule. So, Texas State, Ohio State, and UTSA all wins. You will never see me root for Ohio State. I feel for Ohio State much like I do Alabama. Maybe less, but still around the same caliber. Maybe at Tennessee. Um, a win at Oklahoma, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Missouri. Maybe at LSU. A win at Arkansas, A&M. Of course, that's rival week, right? Speaking of A&M, don't you love how conveniently some of these teams just coincide with the next team I'm going to talk about? Take for A&M, Missouri, Arizona State, and Kentucky. Maybe LSU. Arkansas, Missouri, and Citadel all wins. In Alabama, that's a win, obviously. South Carolina, Tennessee, or maybes. Um, Oklahoma's a loss, and Texas is a loss. Now we've been putting this one off for as long as I can. Vandy. You'll get to my thoughts on Vandy after this. But Austin P, Delaware, and North Carolina State, all wins. Auburn and Georgia, both losses. I ain't rooting against my Tigers on this one. And I would love to go to a night game at Jordan Hare so bad. But anyway, um, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Alabama, all wins. Florida is a maybe. Like I said, Florida's just one of those teams. You never know how they're going to play. They could be dead and they make a surprising comeback. You never know. And Tennessee is a loss. Now, with that being said, Ole Miss needs a huge congratulations. Like y'all have played a hell of a postseason. I will say this, y'all have, and I'm so proud of you, especially with Kiffin leaving. Now, I want to move on to our type. Indiana also needs a documentary about this. I really do. I still believe that. I don't miss needs one too on this one, honestly. Or a little mini series on Hulu, that would be so amazing. On what called Life Since Kiffin Left. I will work in the title. Now, Ty Simpson has so much potential. I'm going to talk about Alabama for a second. I feel like Ty Simpson has the potential. I think he's just under a lot of stress. And he's only a freshman, so imagine by the time he's a senior, how good he could actually be. And look at Arch Manning. This goes with him. Give Arch Manning a couple of years. And I promise you, he's gonna probably be better than his uncle. Both his uncles and his grandpa. Um Now, I was the biggest supporter of Vandy. Was. But then one player had a very made Vandy go from being loved to hated. Yeah, Diego Javier. And I saw where he got drafted. Well, he declared his draft. Now, with that being said, why don't I go over what I think the best possibilities would be if Diego Javier gets drafted? It's the Cowboys or the Titans. That would just be a perfect irony for him. He must take media training prior to spring training. I truly believe that is a requirement that he needs to do. He really needs to do. Um, he's a later round pick. The best part? He doesn't get drafted. That's a good possibility. I say arena football's in his league. Okay, another thing. His family needs to have media training as well. And while we're on this topic of his family, there needs to be a clause in his contract where if they act a fool, he gets punished or has to pay a fine. Win-win. Now, at this point, just give Kiffin his own reality show at this point. This is what the man wants. He doesn't really care about football. He just wants to be popular and liked. He's not liked, by the way. And now Fernando, oh my god, about him for a second. He's gonna be a hell of an NFL quarterback. I really do believe that. He's a small town boy, hometown hero. I think that works out perfect in his favor. Even though Miami technically is a small town, but still. No, Cooper to Jean. It's so funny. They're believing he is dating Nikki Bella. Which, good for Nikki. That also means I have a chance if he's dating Nikki. Cougar. Nikki's a cougar. He's a cub. Just saying. Now, while we're on topic for this episode, have y'all seen when the whole male population has developed a crush on Drake May? It is hilarious, and I think it's so funny. But that is it for this episode. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.